Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special We Wonder. This is Chris Pfluger, your Chief Development Officer here at We Insure, and I think it was a timely opportunity to have a conversation about hurricane preparedness. We've all probably been sitting in front of the TV watching the Weather Channel for the last 4 days, and unfortunately watching a very devastating Category 4 hurricane hit Southwest Florida. And the key point there is the folks in Punta Gorda and in Naples and in Fort Myers, we're not expecting it to turn into them, right? So the forecast was for that hurricane to go way up north, possibly north of Tampa, and then turn in, and it didn't happen. It turned in much earlier. So preparedness at all levels when you see a hurricane warning coming in is part of the key here. Well, the timely part about our conversation is we have agents down there right now who are in market. We're setting up, category, these cat villages so we can have rapid supplies brought in and support for everybody down there in Southwest Florida. We'll have a We Insure truck down there bringing water, support, people, anything we can do to help folks down there kind of with the process of what to do after the hurricane. But we have someone joining us today, Terri Branson, who's in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. How are you doing, Terri?
Doing great.
So one of our very top We Insure offices. And unfortunately, Ian has taken a turn and is coming back around for a second shot at the United States by coming up what looks to be at South Carolina.
That's what it looks like right now. And my fear really for South Carolina, not that we anticipate having anywhere near the devastation they've had in Florida, but if this storm makes landfall as a Category 1, that's still a lot of wind, a lot of storm surge, a lot of rain. And I'm afraid that a lot of South Carolinians aren't paying attention anymore because they think this was a Florida storm and that it's done.
Well, when you hear, Category 4, I mean, that is like deadly impact, wiping out entire areas. You've seen some of the stuff on the news. When you see it get down to a tropical storm in Category 1, people are probably thinking, it's not that bad. However, and I'll read this off, the expectations could be 4 to 7 foot increase in flooding, right? In inland flooding. You could see rain of 8 inches coming in at the same time and 60 to 75 mile an hour winds. So that's not insignificant. That's a real storm.
That's a real storm. Yeah. And I think it's important for people to understand that any storm like this is not just a coastal problem. That storm is projected to move inland with all that same rain and wind. And that means, depending on the time of day, if it's high tide at the coast, then our rivers and inlets and streams are all going to back up and could overflow as well. So it could be a problem across the state, regardless of where it comes ashore, if it's a South Carolina event, like it appears to be.
Well, we can't take anything for granted. So we're going to assume it's coming your way. And the good part about it is I want to have this conversation because we can't get any of our agents that in Southwest Florida. They're out there already with their clients working on their houses and we're dealing with that significant impact. But we want to talk to you about preparedness prior to the event, and then from an insurance agent perspective, right? And so that's the key. And then post-event, what you can do. So let's start with the pre-event. So you're going to start seeing the effects tomorrow a little bit, but really at the end of the day on Friday and early into Saturday, you're going to see really what's going to happen. So what would you recommend for folks other than making sure they have a We Insure agent who's already helped them find the right policies and everything, get everything set up, but what can someone do in advance?
Right. In the real world, it's too late, like you mentioned, for people to buy new coverage. But definitely take some steps to secure your property. Take a good walk around your house and make sure you don't have chairs and light things left out, small potted plants, things that could be lifted up and beat against your house, or things that could be projectiles. We don't want those sitting out then causing more damage. And then, inside, take a look around, take some pictures of what your house looks like right now. Make sure you know where your important paperwork is, and put your fingers on your home insurance policy so that if you need to make a claim, you'll at least have some basic information to start with.
Well, I can tell you as a resident that lives on the coast in Florida, I literally just went through this 4 days ago, just in my mind. Okay, do I have everything? Do I know where everything is? And 2 years ago, I did have a flood, right? I did have my house flooded. And so I can tell you the pre and the post, what it looks like in reality, right? So in practicality. So, and again, it's been a great experience, right? It was other than the flooding part, the actual processing, working with the carriers, working with We Insure, picking up the 800 number, who's in a completely different area. So that's one of the points I wanted to make is our service and support teams are in a completely different area. So in case anything happens to your office, Terri, you can still bring your laptop, still be up and running, still be meeting with clients. We're still supporting you on the back end with an entire team. So you're still operational no matter what. That's the key here.
It really is. And our team here locally are prepared with their laptops and all of the equipment they need to work from wherever that may be. So they even understand if they reached a point tonight or tomorrow where they feel like they need to evacuate, then my agents are going to be someplace by the next day where they can still take phone calls and access our system and still work with clients. And then, of course, we've got our whole We Insure service team that can help as an extension of us. So it's kind of like every office has a staff of 100.
Exactly. Well, the interesting part about this too is, insurance is not just a job, right? This is where you're helping families, and this is a very scary time, right? This is not a normal period of time. There's a lot of stress on those families, and so anything that we can do to help those families, either get out cleanly and make sure they're safe. And again, that's one of the number one tips, right, that I had was if your county tells you to evacuate because you're in a zone, don't be a hero. There's too many people that end up losing their lives or getting seriously injured because they try to stay behind. And again, these are not, you don't mess with Mother Nature. This is something we cannot control. And so you need to make sure you do everything you can to protect life first. So.
Exactly. And, much like Florida, South Carolina is a state where thousands of people move to every year. So we have lots and lots of neighbors and newer clients who don't have a lot of experience on the coast in South Carolina. And they may talk to their neighbor or friend who says, we've never had damage before. That's okay. But if you're in a zone where the county says you should evacuate, you should do it.
Exactly. So I grew up in Florida. So filling up a bathtub and having extra water and buying plywood and all those things has been a normal course of business. If you never need it, it's better to have it, never use it. And so
that's right.
Always thankful when we've never used it. So it's better to have.
Right. That's a much better position to be in.
It is indeed. So as we're dealing with that in Florida and it's coming around the corner, coming up toward you guys, we already have the preparedness. We're preparing our property. And again, I just did this whole thing. So preparing our properties, making sure there's no projectiles down, everything's pushed in. A lot of people have pools. They put the furniture in the pool to make sure it doesn't blow out. Anything you can do.
Yep.
That helps.
If you've got shutters to close the shutters or put up your hurricane panels. If you have any of that, this is the time to do it.
Exactly. This is exactly. Okay. So let's say we're 3 days from now, and the storm has passed and you did have some damage. Now, whether it's minor damage or major damage, or if you had to leave and come back into your property. So tell us, what do you recommend? What do you recommend for those folks from an insurance agent perspective? What should they do?
Well, and I would say too, I'd back up and say first and foremost, again, depending on the nature of the storm and how much damage there is in your home area, listen to the radio, watch the news to be sure that they're saying, yes, it's safe for you to come back in. Because if we have downed power lines and things of that nature, then you're better off not coming back to your house immediately. You're just going to cause problems for everybody and potentially put yourself in danger. But if it's safe for you to come back, then come back and take a walk around the house and see what it looks like. And it may be that time to pull out your policy and take a look, see what your deductible looks like, and call and speak to your agent so that we can go over it with you if you think we need to. Because I can tell you that if you come back and you've got something that's probably going to take about $500 to fix, we're going to tell you not to file a claim. We don't want that against you. We want to be reasonable about what's going on. And in addition to that, I'd say too, if you do have damage enough that you feel like it warrants making a claim, I can advise that our insurance carriers are going to rank those by how severe they are. So the customers who are completely out of their homes and can't live in it because the roof is missing or things like that are definitely going to get priority care over somebody who has, broken railings on their porch or things of that nature. So one of my words may be patient, because if you have really minor damage and your house is completely livable aside from that damage, you're not going to see an adjuster tomorrow.
Right. Well, and you made a good point on that, right? So a lot of people come in and say, oh no, my window was cracked. And something came in and like, I have to start filing a claim. And the reality of it is there's a certain threshold that a reasonable person might go, I don't want to have that on my record, and I don't want to have this against the house. And so I think that's something simple. I can fix it because, again, there's still deductibles. There's still future increases to consider. No one's suggesting you shouldn't, but what your suggestion is we should probably have that conversation with the agent, which is really the best point here. So talk to your reinsure agent, ask the question saying, what do you think? And they'll advise you what to do next. The good point is, let's say you can't get a hold of your agent for some reason because it's really that serious of a storm. Cell phones are out, everything's going in. We certainly have an 800 number where you can get to at our corporate headquarters. They can help work with you. And then finally, the most important piece is make sure you file that claim if you're going to with your carrier, and it is severe. Make sure you do that early and often, but take pictures, document. That's
You got it.
advice.
Absolutely. Got to have pictures, and don't go repairing and replacing everything right off the bat either. Make the home safe and take precautions to keep from any further damage. If you have a hole in something, covering up so we don't get more rain inside, or you don't have vandalism or that kind of thing. Take some of those sorts of steps, but don't go all the way to repair anything if you think you're going to file a claim, because that's what the adjuster has to see to prove that you really had anything happen.
Right. And most companies the carriers will have their adjusters out very, very quickly. They already know there's a storm in your area, so this is not a surprise to them. So people are standing by. A lot of this happens quicker than you actually think, even though for you, the minutes seem like hours. You had very good advice. Be patient, document, take your pictures, and ultimately do everything you can to mitigate any further damage. So if the water is leaking and you can stop it from leaking in the house and you cut it off, make sure you cut it off. Just don't let it run for 5 days, right? So anything that seems like a reasonable, option out there, please take advantage of that. And the other thing I noticed in our area when we had a lot of flooding, which is what comes with this, a lot of storm surge, is folks have left a lot of plugs plugged in, and they have strips for their computer and everything else in there. And then you step back into a puddle in your house, and we had 2 people 2 years ago, at least in my area, die from electricity because it's down. So make sure when you go back in that you're extremely safe. If you can pull those rugs, those type of things, unplug things and keep it high, you're better off. So that's definitely with water.
Great point.
Yep. Well, I think it's been great. I appreciate this. I wish you the best of luck. Thoughts and prayers obviously are with everybody in Southwest Florida. It went across the entire state. There's been flooding across the whole state of Florida. So we've been working a lot of things this week. However, we know that it's a very serious storm heading your way, and I appreciate you sharing those tips and thoughts with all of our viewers, but also all of our homeowners out there, just to keep them safe and to make the right decisions going forward. So, Terri, thank you very much. I appreciate you joining us, and it's We Insure Advocates in Myrtle Beach, and you guys are doing a fantastic job, and fingers crossed it just goes out to the ocean. It doesn't bother you at all.
Exactly. Thanks, Chris. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.